Hello mate and welcome. As you can see, this is not a sprite on my screen. I just thought I'd make a short video about kind of making beat. I know that when you're making a music for a video game, drum beats and percussion tends to be almost overlooked because the melody in the background harmony tends to be more important, because when you're making background music for a video game, you want to convey the emotions, but you don't want the music to overpower or steal the moment. So I'll just sort of do something about making beats. I'm just going to use the standard 808 kick, clap, hi-hat and snare that we've got in the channel rack at the moment. And the obvious place to start would be somewhere with the kick. So if we just have it in pattern mode, and there you can hear, let me just turn that up a little bit for you guys. So there we go, we've got our bass drum just kicking once there. And depending on what kind of beat we're making, we can go, for example, I'll just do a basic hip hop style kind of, I'll just start with a kick in the snare. Let's just go with that for now. And then you'd probably finish off with something like that. I mean, it's very old school hip hop. With the beats per minute is way too high. We should be somewhere down in like the 90s, 70s, 80s, and 90s for a hip hop. And that's sort of like a 1980s hip hop beat. And what you'd probably find is that there'd be a hi-hat filling in some of the gaps. And of course, then if you want to have a little break at the end of the second one, you could repeat the process for this one and come in with our snares. Something like that, and then it would, again, we'll just fill in with some hi-hats in here and see how that sounds. Nice and simple. What more modern music tends to do is take this really basic pattern, this really basic ingredients, and just remove bits of it. So, for example, if I just remove a couple of bass drums from in there, and part of the for example, when you've got trap music on drill, they tend to be very hi-hat heavy, so you would probably have something like, and it'd probably be a lot faster as well, to be honest, but they'd literally just put triplets instead of singles or doubles. So again, more modern, but obviously in order to make this sound more effective, they would obviously crank up the distortion on the bass drum and make it a lot louder. I mean, we could probably do that if we went into our Vex rack and we just grabbed channel 1, which is our kick drum, and we went with a reverb and we just put that into the, I'm going to go with the drum room. And then we can obviously grab a parametric equalizer as well. or echo. Let's grab echo, and we're just going to crank the bass up, crank the higher tones up, and then just drag that down. And I think we have to go for some kind of distortion as well. Just got to find one. We don't want a compressor. Just go with a fast distortion. And then to stop it from overpowering the track too much, we just bring the volume down a bit. Cool. And then obviously you just add a bass line over the top of that essentially. And because if we were making more modern music, it would be a very basic bass line. I tend to find that in modern, particularly pop, hip hop, the bass lines tend not to be particularly complicated. They tend to be very simple. Quite often just one note or two notes that kind of just provide a backing track for the person to sing over the top of it essentially. And obviously pop beats tends to be a little bit more simplistic. I mean, house music is the obvious easy one because it is essentially just every fourth note. It tends to have a beat per minute of kind of... You know, and the more bits you add to it is you add your thirds of your hi-hat. It doesn't get much simpler than that, to be quite honest. And if you wanted to add, you know, something else, just add a hi-hat in there as well. You know, pretty simple stuff, really. And this is before we even get into the realms of sampling. A lot of particularly modern tracks nowadays tend to use sampled beats. I mean, they're still to this day using samples of the funky drummer in various different speeds, or people just replicating the funky drummer bass line. So, you know, there's multiple options for beats. Again, if you're making music for a video game, you probably don't want the beat to be too elaborate and too overwhelming, because the rest of the track needs to be the thing that captures the imagination of the player. You need to more capture the emotion using chords. I might make a video, perhaps tomorrow, on using things like strings and synthesizers to make backing chords for a track that kind of convey emotions and stuff. But that's just a brief kind of whiz through of some beat stuff. Hopefully you found it useful. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. But until then, you take damn good care of yourselves, alright? Bye-bye.